Hey everyone, Ben Eunson here. Today we are going to talk about sight reading, which is one of the most feared topics amongst guitar players. So make sure you let me know where you're tuning in from. Make sure you let me know if you can hear me okay and that you can hear the guitar okay, which I think is pretty important because we're going to be talking about guitar today. So let me know if you can hear that okay. And let me know if you can hear me talking as well. So as I said, if you're just tuning in now, make sure to let me know where you are in the world. Fantastic. Thanks, Les. Thanks for letting me know. Enrico, thank you so much. Let me know where you're tuning in from. And of course, let me know if you have any questions throughout our discussion today. I think that's really important too, because as much as I'm going to talk to you, I'd love to know what you have to say as well, and what your experiences have been with sight reading as a guitarist. And also thank you to Vienna Lorraine, who'll be moderating today. Say hi to Vienna for us. Before we go ahead, I should let you know that we're having up to 30% off everything on my classic online courses and bundles at benyunson.com. That includes my How to Practice courses, my How to Practice bundle, the mini lesson bundle, and my single mini lessons. You can get up to 30% off. And just for you here on the live stream, get an extra 5% off with the code April23. April23. It'll be in the description below. And it'll be ending on Sunday. We're not going to be doing sales as often, so if you want to check this stuff out, check it out now. And also make sure to go to bensguitarclub.com, which is my new website where you can get my latest guitar masterclasses, including 10 etudes for guitar improvisation, my latest, as well as the new modern soloing bundle, which is 5 guitar masterclasses in one, bensguitarclub.com. So make sure to check it out. And remember, the sale on my classic online courses and bundles ends on Sunday night, so don't miss it. So who do we have here? Hey, Elliot, Giuseppe, Cassio, Thomas, Copenhagen, wonderful to see you. Mero from Brazil. Hey Jake, Nova Scotia. David, great to see you. Rasmus, wonderful to see you from Switzerland. Aiden, wonderful to see you all. Keep letting me know where you're tuning in from. So we're going to be talking about sight reading today. And it is one of the sort of most feared topics amongst guitarists. And I want to give you 3 scenarios which I think contribute to why this is such a feared topic. Now, before we go any further, you're probably going to wonder, am I a good sight reader? I haven't really sight read anything for you here on my YouTube channel, but I have had a fairly long-running professional career as a working guitarist for a long time. And a lot of the time that did necessitate me being a good reader. And I would consider myself to be a good reader. If you give me something with quarter notes or eighth notes, then I can read it in real time just fine. If you give me something with 16th notes, well, I'm going to have to take it aside for a minute and work out some fingerings. 2 or 3 minutes later, I'll probably be fine. So I'd say I'm a good reader. But as for reasons why guitarists can't read, well, we're going to talk about 3 reasons why guitarists have difficulty reading, or at least get a bad rap for it, and then 3 solutions that relate to these 3 problems. So let's start with the legend surrounding guitarists not being able to read. I sort of think it becomes a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy, and I'd love to know your thoughts on this as well. But it's generally expected that guitarists will be bad at sight reading. It's kind of an expectation. I think we've all heard the famous joke, how do you get a guitarist to stop playing? hand them a piece of sheet music. It's an old one at this point, but you still hear it. And I sometimes wonder if it's because you're expected to be a bad sight reader, maybe you will underperform as a sight reader. I remember when I was playing with several jazz ensembles when I was a lot younger, and I just fell apart on certain occasions in rehearsals and sometimes on gigs, sight reading, because I sort of lacked confidence in this particular area of my playing. And I think it's a mental hurdle that I had to overcome, and a lot of us have to overcome. So yeah, the expectation that you won't be a great sight reader because you're a guitarist, sometimes it can cause a lack of confidence. So I think that that's an interesting problem or dilemma. Okay, so the second reason is well known. There are so many places to play the same note on the guitar neck. For example, if we were to take a pitch like middle C, that's piano middle C, that's the first fret of the B string, we can play that in 5 places on the guitar neck. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Not such a friendly place to play it up there at the 20th fret, and sometimes an intonation nightmare, but nonetheless an option. So yeah, so many places to play the same note, usually 3 to 5 options for each pitch, most pitches on the guitar neck. And this can really make things very, very confusing. By contrast, a pianist only has to contend with one location for each note, and this is a large part of why reading is a lot more logical on piano, and by contrast, far more illogical on guitar. Guitar is also one of the few instruments where you can come up with multiple left-hand fingerings for the same thing. Okay, first 5 notes of a C major scale. We can also play it here. We can also play it here. Go up the octave if we really wanted to. So many places to play the same thing, and that presents yet another conundrum which other instrumentalists simply don't have to deal with. And this is a big part of why reading on guitar is inherently quite difficult. Now, there are ways of overcoming this, and we're going to get to that in a little bit. So the third reason that we're going to discuss today relates to guitarists becoming too dependent on reading tab. Now, if you're too dependent on reading guitar tab, well, this might present you with some problems when you get together to play with people in just about any stylistic musical sense. So I'm not going to speak badly of guitar tab. Any of you that have purchased my online courses, guitar masterclasses, or some of my transcriptions will know that I certainly present tab to accompany the notation in the music. Now, I think it's really important because the guitar is not a piano, for example, and since it has 6 strings with numerous places to play everything, I think it is a valid visual aid for students to be able to look at something on guitar tab and say, aha, this is where I play it. I play it right here, as opposed to here, to use our C major scale example. So I think it's a valid visual aid for students. But where it can really trip you up is you will probably not find tab presented to you in a lot of professional situations when someone hands you a piece of music to play. In fact, a lot of times people will hand you even a piano score or a bass chart as well, because perhaps there isn't a guitar part, and then you've got to make sense of a piano chart or a bass chart. And when I was a lot younger, I didn't know that that was going to continue into the professional world, but it does. It happens in all sorts of situations, and I wonder if because of the idea, the perception that guitarists can't read, you get a bit more pressure on you to make it sound really good, even if you've been handed a piano chart. Just my experience, but I wonder if anyone else has experienced that too. Jump in the chat and let me know. So what are we going to do about all of these things? These are just 3 reasons. And if you have any other reasons why you think reading is difficult on guitar, let me know and we're going to talk about it in just a few minutes. But to remedy the problems that we just discussed, let's go back to our first problem. And the first problem kind of related to confidence and the overall idea that guitarists, by definition, won't be very good at sight reading. So I think that the best way of overcoming this is by grabbing hold of as many examples of great sheet music as possible and factoring it into your daily practice schedule, making sure that you sight read through something every day and a variety of different things. For example, I have with me 2 very famous Bach books, which I really love. And in case you can't see what the titles are, the first one is Bach 2-Part Inventions for the Piano. And the next one is the famous, amongst guitarists, Sonatas and Partitas for the Violin. And I think these are such wonderful resources, not just for reading, but also just getting some of that music under your fingers. I think it's, obviously some of the foundation of modern music, Bach, but it also stands to be a great reading resource. So in case you didn't see that, it was the famous Sonatas and Partitas for the Violin, and of course 2-Part Inventions for the Piano. And I've used both of these as great resources, well, not just for reading, but also just for the enjoyment of the music, because it is very, very beautiful music, and you can learn a lot even about improvised lines from playing through this. So that's something to check out. Beyond that, if you're trying to improve your reading amongst a group of people, because sometimes your playing falls apart. Okay, how do I put this? Sometimes you think you're sight reading great at home, but then you get amongst a group of people and your sight reading just falls apart. There's that pressure again. So maybe sometimes it's good to set up a low pressure situation where you get together with some musician friends and each of you brings in some charts. Could be originals, could be standards, could be anything. And you all have to read through the music no matter what anyone brings. I've done this with people, and that way it's a low pressure way of working on sight reading amongst a group of people, and I think that's a really positive thing to do. So I'd recommend that highly. You can succeed or fail amongst your musician friends without a lot of pressure on. All right, keep those questions coming. We're going to come to your questions in just a minute. I'm going to look through everything you've said. The next thing we talked about related to how many places you can play the same note on the guitar neck. 3 to 5 locations for most notes, except the highest pitches, which usually only have 1. But this can be very, very confusing. And a great way to overcome this is by practicing sight reading in positions. So think about this. We're trying to eliminate the stress of having so many places to play the same note. So we're just going to limit ourselves to 1 position on the guitar neck. Now, this applies for me only to reading. I'm not going to tell you to do this in terms of soloing. I think that when you're soloing, you want to do the antithesis of this. You don't want to get stuck in 1 position. But for practicing sight reading, you do. And basically what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the first few bars of one of the pieces from this Bach book. It's going to be Bach's Violin Partita number 1 in B minor, the double, and you can see a performance of this right here on my YouTube channel. And it starts like this. So what I just played for you there take it a little bit further. I played all of that in about the 4th position on the guitar neck. So the 4th position means that the first finger falls on the 4th fret, the 4th position. So that would give us a B on the 4th fret of the G string. Now the way that we define a position, of course, is the first finger falls on the 4th fret, and then the following fingers lay on the next frets, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's the 4th position. And generally speaking, you're allowed a bit of leeway of 1 to 2 frets, 1, 2, 1, 2, on either end of the position. Because, you know, sometimes you need a little bit more space to move on the guitar neck. So what I did there, if I was sight reading this passage from this Bach violin piece, Partita number 1, the double, I'm going to try and stick in the 4th position as much as I can throughout the whole piece. I may have to deviate from it momentarily, but sight reading in one position only will eliminate a lot of the double choices of notes. There you go, just in the 4th position. So that's a great way to eliminate this problem of having so many multiples of the same note. And if you have any questions, make sure you jump in. I see your comments here. Rasmus, Kane, Lee. We're going to talk in just a minute, so stick around. The final thing that we talked about was being too dependent on tablature. Now, as I said, I have no problem with tab. I'm certainly not going to speak badly about it. I think it's really useful when you're learning, and certainly when you're trying to learn something like my transcriptions, which might have some unusual fingerings, I think it's really useful to look at tab when you're learning. But one way to eliminate dependency on tab as a guitarist is to, once again, go through things like violin and piano music and really limit yourself to that. And even looking at lead sheets in the real book, so you have a bit more rhythmic variation, or lead sheets of anyone. It can be a very, very useful way of breaking out of the tablature thing. Also, if you find some classical guitar music, you'll see that there is notation in terms of where to finger things with your left hand especially. Sometimes it can be good to investigate classical guitar music to see how fingerings are indicated on standard notation minus tablature. And that can be a really great way to break out of dependency on tab. Tab is good as a sort of exploratory way of understanding fingerings on the neck, but it's not a good thing to have to depend on. So explore classical guitar music, piano music, lead sheets in the jazz idiom, or anything really, any style of music that you like. So yeah, Jake here says that flute music is also good and challenging. Fantastic suggestion. So those are some of my suggestions on how we can improve sight reading as guitarists. Now I want to get to what you think, and we're going to go through your questions and comments right now. So before we do that, remember we're having up to 30% off everything for my classic online courses, bundle packages and mini lessons at beneunson.com. The link is in the description below, and you can get an extra 5% off with the code April23. And we're not going to be doing sales much anymore. It's going to end on Sunday night, so if you want to check this material out for a lower price and with an extra discount right here on YouTube, jump in before Sunday night. And check out my new guitar masterclasses at bensguitarclub.com, including 10 etudes of guitar improvisation and the new modern soloing bundle. Right, so let's look at your questions. Let's see. So Rasmus, you said you learned to sight read in big bands. That's a really good point. I sort of honed some of my skills sight reading in big bands as well. And when I was a teenager, I definitely crashed and burned in big band settings as well, I will admit. Sometimes you fall flat on your face sight reading in front of a lot of your musical peers or even an audience, and it puts sort of enough fuel to your fire to make you better at it, to make you want to work on it more. And sometimes failing publicly as a sight reader or even a soloist can be an unusually great experience that eventually propels you forth into improving. So yeah, I sight read with big bands as well. Had some good times and some very bad times. So let's have a look. Kane, that's a great question. Hi Ben, I'm 48. Can I learn sight reading from this age? Well, Kane, I think that music is a lot more of a constant process than maybe is often discussed. I think it's more of a constant learning process that continues as you get older. You know, when I was younger, 17 or 18, which I am not now, I thought that there was going to be some point maybe in my mid-20s where I'd get good and that would be it. And then I'd be like, yeah, I'm great and that's what it will be. And this turned out to be a, you know, somewhat juvenile perception because as it turns out, it's an ever-growing process, you know. And for me, I still work on my sight reading right here at home. And I think in spite of you being 48, as you mentioned, I don't think that that's any reason not to keep honing that skill. I think it's as good a time as any to keep working on it. And you can certainly pick up some Bach books. Don't be too hard on yourself for reading slowly. And I think that that's advice that I would give everyone here today, including myself probably. Don't be too harsh on yourself in terms of taking it slow with reading. If you make mistakes, you make mistakes. Just keep pushing through and try to read with a metronome or some sort of pulse so that that sort of keeps you accountable. So yeah, doesn't matter how old you are, just jump into it and enjoy it, I think. So what else do we have here? Enrico, your articulations sound great but very stretchy and dangerous for my hands. Well, and Enrico, that's an interesting point. If I'm reading, say, a 16th note passage, I'm probably going to want to articulate it in the way that I like to articulate it, which is with all my stretchy things that I like to play, you know. If I see a melody with some wide intervals, of course, that is written on paper. So with that in mind, if I'm playing a passage that is, say, a 16th note passage, I probably won't be incredible at sight reading that. I have to take it to the side and work out a fingering that I like the sound of. You don't have to do that so much on other instruments, but guitar, this is something to be aware of. Working out a fingering that you think sounds good, even if you're sight reading. So, an interesting point. Let's have a look. What else do we have here? Bill, do you encounter double flats or double sharps much? If I'm reading through a piece of music in a professional situation and I see something marked with a double sharp or a double flat, I get one of my trusty pencils, which is a very handy trick to always bring some pencils with you, and I just cross it out and turn it into something that is enharmonically equivalent, that's a bit easier to read, because I think knowing your limitations and knowing how something is going to be logical to you is really important. And to me, I'm just going to trip up if I see double flats or double sharps. So just cross it out on the page with a pencil and replace it with an enharmonic equivalent that doesn't have double flats or double sharps. That's what I'd do anyway. Hey Mark, hi from Brazil, fantastic. Let's have a look. Florian, hi Ben. When you're improvising, do you think about the name of the notes, or do you think about in terms of positions on the guitar neck? I've sort of gotten to a point now where I think of things, it's sort of a bit more of a stream of consciousness thing at this point. I don't so much think in positions or note names. I suppose I know the materials, the scales and the arpeggios, to such a point that I don't have to think about it so much. I mean, if I screw up really badly, then I probably will. I probably will have to think about it. But 9 times out of 10, I sort of play with my eyes closed, which some people have mentioned, and it actually ends up being something of a good exercise to play with your eyes closed, because that way you're not depending upon vision of the fretboard, and you're also making sure that your ears are functioning at as high a standard as possible. So yeah, I suppose I don't think in either of those ways, unless I screw up really badly, which is certainly possible. Okay, let's look at a couple more questions. Let's just go back a little bit. I don't want to have missed anyone here. Hi, Lee. Once you understand rhythm notation, notes are very easy and logical. Just knowing on the guitar, as we have multiples of the same notes in the same octave. Absolutely, I agree completely. The multiples can really trip you up, but I hope that practicing reading in positions, I gave you one example in the 4th position, but you can do it anywhere on the guitar neck so long as it has a correlation with the piece of music you're playing, of course. And that should remedy that in terms of practicing reading. I have noticed that people who are very adept position players tend to be great readers. So I think there's a correlation there. Let's have a look at what else we have here. Hi, Giannis. Hi, Ben. Greetings from Latvia. Thanks for tuning in. What if you don't have time to prepare any fingerings and the tempo is 200 plus in a big band setting and the big band leaders don't understand the fingering struggle? Well, you know, that is perhaps more to do with the plight of the guitarist in the big band, you know. I mean, I think, not that I'm one to complain, but I think in some way the guitar is almost like the most disrespected instrument in the big band sometimes, because oftentimes we're handed the piano chart or the bass chart. You know, the big band director, not everyone, but some big band directors say, "Oh, I'm sorry, we don't have a guitar part for you," and then there's the struggle that you've recounted of, you know, fast tempos and trying to work out a fingering. So, look, I think my best answer for you is you've just got to do your best and try to work on the fly as best you can. Sit there as soon as the pages come in front of you and try to work out a fingering, and then just do your best. I think if the big band director doesn't understand that struggle, then well, shame on that big band director. I've been in the position many times myself, though, so I get it. It's a tough situation. Just gotta do your best to take 2 minutes and try to work out a fingering, and you'll probably be fine. So let's see what else we have here. Have you ever played in a big band? Do I have videos of this time? I actually do have videos of me playing in a big band. I don't really do big band guitar work anymore, and I have a reason for it. I think there are people who are better suited to playing in big bands stylistically. I think I've encountered guitarists who kind of do that as their career. There are guitarists who just are such wonderful additions to big bands and know that style of music. You know, big bands with modern jazz, big bands with perhaps more traditional jazz. There are certain guitarists who can just cover all of that so well. And it's not to say that I couldn't do it. It's just to say that I think my energies are better focused somewhere else. I think I'm probably stronger at other things, and there are certain guitarists who dedicate their career to that, and I have tremendous respect for it. So I don't really do big bands anymore, but I did a lot of it when I was younger. So let's do a couple more questions. Jump in the chat and let me know. And don't forget that you can get up to 30% off everything for my classic online courses and bundles at benyunson.com, How to Practice Bundle, Mini Lesson Bundle, my individual How to Practice online courses, and the mini lessons as well, up to 30% off. We're not going to be doing sales so much anymore, so it'll end on Sunday night, and you can get an extra 5% off with April 23. So make sure to jump on that and check out my new site, bensguitarclub.com, while you're at it. I'm really proud of this website. It's got really state-of-the-art video that I've updated my video capabilities, and it's just some work that I'm really proud of, and more importantly, I hope that it helps you with playing guitar. So yeah, I'd love for you to check that out. So you can jump into some practice over the weekend. All right, couple more questions. Destroying my dreams of playing in a big band. No, you should play in a big band. I think it's a great experience for guitarists, and I think it can also help you a lot with comping. I mean, being a guitarist in a big band, there's always a bit of a power struggle between the pianist and the guitarist, interestingly enough. So if you can iron that out in a big band and make sure that the pianist and the guitarist have a good relationship in terms of who's comping at any given time, you'll have a great time in a big band. Probably. Anyway. Okay, one more. Can you talk about, Adrian, can you talk a bit about key signatures as they relate to sight reading? Certainly if you're playing jazz, you're probably going to be playing in more flat keys than sharp keys. So if you see a future for yourself playing more jazz, then certainly I think everyone should practice reading in any key, but there's a likelihood that you'll be practicing playing in more flat keys. That is just how history has panned out, especially with brass and woodwind sections being tuned to B flat. That probably has something to do with it. Just something to consider. But very interesting about this book, Two-Part Inventions for the Piano, the Bach book, is that it contains a wonderful combination of flats and sharps, pieces with flats and sharps, as well as bass clef if you're interested in going down that road, which can be a challenge, an interesting one at that. But it has a great variety of pieces in flat keys and sharp keys, so I would consider that because it's great to be strong with all key signatures. So that's what I would suggest about that. A couple more. Owen, do I have any advice for playing in a duo context with singers? I have done a lot of that. Perhaps not that has been seen on YouTube or that has been seen on a recording, but I used to play with a lot of singers, and it strengthened my playing a lot chordally. You certainly have to do your best to support the singer. The job is to support the singer, really, and to shine at the moments where you shine. But the primary job is to support the singer and make sure that you voice lead certain chord voicings that don't interfere with the range of the singer themselves. So that would be my main concern, is to make sure that the chord voicings have bass notes that really support the singer, but also that the top note of the voicing doesn't interfere with the vocal range of the singer themselves. So that would be something to think about. Oh, and you've got to play with great time, because there's usually no drummer. So you've got to, if it's just you and a singer, you're the band. So you've got to be rock solid. Let's do one more. Okay. Oh yeah, we'll do two more. Are you satisfied with the clean sound on the Ibanez AM? Yes, I love it. It's really great. Let's see, what have we got here? I mean, if you ask me, I reckon that's a pretty dreamy, clean sound. I love it. And if you stick it in the middle setting, I don't use this sound as much. I mean, it's crystal clear. It's beautiful clarity. I mean, yeah, and you know, look, I mean, I've always been very open about this. I don't have a vested interest in selling you gear. I've actually turned down certain offers from people who have tried to get me to use certain gear because I'm quite adamant about only using gear that I like and I feel strongly about. I think that's really important. And the fact of the matter is that I've been playing Ibanez since I was 16. I got my first Ibanez. And I've had a John Schofield model. I've owned about 5 AS50s over the years, a number of which I had to sell when I was moving to the US many years ago, but that's another long story. We all have to sell gear at some point. But I've loved the AS50 over the years. And to me, the AM153QA is like a, you know, it's the best of a few worlds. It's got a beautiful clear sound, but a big sound. It's got a smaller body like the traditional AS50, and the neck feels beautiful. It's a very slim neck, very easy to play, and I can get pretty low action on it. So yeah, I mean, I've been loving this guitar, and a great litmus test for whether or not a person is just trying to sell you gear is, do they use it? Do they keep using it? And for me, I've been using this for, I think a little over a year now, non-stop. It's been my favorite guitar, and I absolutely love it. And I'm lucky to have a surplus of great instruments these days. But this has been a real winner for me, and I think it sounds great. Okay, one more question. Let's see. Oh, hi, Gerson. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Let's see. Greetings from India. Lovely to see you. So how do you practice sight reading? Is there any technique to getting better at playing sight reading fluently? Well, yeah. If you have time later, if you can wind this video back, I'll certainly leave it up here. I have a few suggestions for how you can sight read more fluently, and to do with position playing and a few other things as well. So if you wind the video back, I hope that's helpful. And if you have any other specific questions, just let me know before we finish up. All right, one more. Any tips on reading chords? Great question. Reading chords on guitar can be really stressful, no doubt about it. And one thing that I mentioned earlier that really helps in this regard is sight reading classical guitar music. If you can get your hands on some classical guitar music, Bach lute suite transcriptions, something like that, you'll get a lot of chords, and you'll have to do it in real time. So find classical guitar music with a lot of chords, notated within, which is typical of a lot of classical guitar music, and you will remedy that problem, I think. But start off reading slowly, and don't be too hard on yourself, I think. I think it's important that we're not too hard on ourselves, because this is a sort of a difficult topic amongst guitarists, reading. So anyway, everyone, it's been such a blast talking with you today. Let's leave it here. I hope that some of my sight reading tips might help you. Certainly, if you have any future, if you're watching this not live, drop a comment and let me know, and I'll do my best to get back to you. These are just some tips that have really helped me throughout time with sight reading, and I hope that it's of some use to you as well. So make sure you let me know if you have any last questions. Feel free to drop a comment. Let me know where you're tuning in from. And don't forget to check out up to 30% off at benyunson.com for my classic bundle packages and online courses, including the How to Practice bundle, the mini lesson bundle, my online courses and mini lessons, up to 30% off everything. April 23 is the code for an extra 5% off, and it all ends on Sunday night. And check out my new masterclasses at bensguitarclub.com. I'm really proud of them. They have subtitles, notation, high quality video, everything you could ever ask for. So check it out. All right, everyone. Thank you so much, and I will see you very, very soon. Thank you again. Bye.